Hey, oh, Smokes, get off of my computer, dude. Oh. Hey, everybody. It's Sarah, old sister, and I'm going to, once again, take care of my cat. Hang on. Come here, baby. Oh, big boy. Go on. Oh, my goodness. So, it's been a while, actually, since I went live or did anything on this channel. I think it's been, I don't know, probably a couple of months at the very least. My lighting's not all that great. And actually, hang on, let me fix that. All right, that should be better. All right, yeah, that's better. All right. And I'm just gonna leave all this stuff in because I don't have editing software and fuck it. My cat. Smokey. Quit rubbing on my computer, dude. Anyway, so as of right now, it is just about, excuse me, I think it's just about past 6:30 on December 31st, 2019, which means we have less than 4 hours to go, a little less than 3.5 hours to go until we enter a new decade for 2020. And it's over a little. I need to move over? No, I'm good. And so I just want to talk a little bit about how mind-blowing that is. I mean, I think in the last 10 years, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier today. There have been so many significant changes and so many things that have gone on. Smokes. Hi, baby. Hi. You need to get down though. My cat apparently he's just not used to me talking and being on camera. So, but anyway, and they haven't been feeling good today, so we have 2 kitties. Anyway, I could focus on the negative aspects of the different life lessons learned in the last 10 years, and there's been quite a few. But I actually wanted to focus on kind of the way things have changed, how I've changed, how life has changed, how everything's kind of rolled. This time 10 years ago, I had just moved to California. I'd been in California for September, 3 months. Alex and I had been dating for just under a year. It would have been a year in March of 2010. We weren't engaged or anything yet. We'd like literally I had just moved in with him 3 months prior. I had just started a new job at the beginning of October. I started with Target when I first moved into California. I just finished my degree in September. Finished out my internship and everything and had not found a job in social services in California. So I was working at Food Avenue at Target in Eureka, which no problem there. That's just how I started my life with that. And yeah, I remember being in a happier space than I had been in quite a while when we started 2010. Now I will say this, there's been a lot of ups and downs. 2010 was, oh, 2010 was a year, but, and this last decade has been a decade. Like 24, 25-year-old me could not have foreseen the ways that I was going to be shaped and the lessons I was going to learn in that time space. But in 2010, so I'm just gonna run you through this. 2010, my dad had just been diagnosed with cancer and we were going through that whole thing. But May of 2010, we flew out to Michigan for the first time for Alex to meet all my family and everything. I'm itchy, so sorry. We got engaged in 2010, and then literally a month after we got engaged, a little less than a month after we got engaged, was when Alex found out that he was accepted into the Selmer program in Alaska. So newly engaged, have all this stuff going on, literally picked our house up, shoved as much stuff into the back of our Malibu as we could, shipped 26 boxes worth of stuff from the post office in Arcata to a random place in Juneau. We're like, is there a post office there? And they're like, yeah. So just send it all parcel post there. We didn't have an address. We didn't have anywhere to go. We were going to be renting a room when we got there, but we didn't know those people. So yeah, we moved to Alaska in 2010. I started out my first out the gate social services job as soon as we got to Juneau. We were talking to the lady we were getting the house from, we were renting a room from, and I had mentioned that I had just finished my degree in social services, and she goes, and I had a job interview for Walmart as soon as we got there, because I'd worked at Target, and then I had a job interview for Home Depot as well. And she goes, there's this company downtown called Reach. They work with adults and children with developmental disabilities. It sounds like you'd be perfect. You might want to check them out. They're always looking for good people. So I think like the next day, while we were out and about exploring and spending gobs of money trying to get everything set up, I went down and I applied. I got hired at Home Depot at my interview for Home Depot. So I was there doing my training and everything, did the interview for Reach, and it was just a whirlwind. Alex started college. He started his master's within a couple of days of us being there. I think was when he started classes. Because we got there on August 1st of 2010. And then I think he was starting classes. He started they had this big retreat and everything he had to go on. So he started classes like the second week of August, if I remember correctly. And so I went down, we did all that thing, did all of this like running around hoopla, still trying to find an apartment of our own, by the way, because we thought we only had a month before this lady was going to be back. I mean, we essentially had rented a room, but she was back east with her sister. So we had the whole house in the middle of Auk Bay. So I went in and I started doing my training for Home Depot. I was actually in the process of doing my initiation. That's not it. When you first start a new job, and the word is escaping me right now. But anyway, so we started doing that, and then in orientation, there we go. While I'm doing orientation, the first week, Reach called me back and said that they already had a family member or a client that they wanted to put me on, and I got hired. And that was my first social services job right out of getting to Alaska. Alaska didn't do me too many favors personally, but it definitely did me a lot of favors career-wise. Same thing with Alex, actually, because he started out, was 4 years of him doing his master's while we were in Juneau, almost 4 years. Because we wound up leaving Juneau on July 23rd of 2014, I think. Because I started my job in Bellevue on the 25th. So yeah, I mean, that was a little over a year later, actually. I had case management background already from my internships and stuff like that with school. I wasn't happy being a caregiver solely. I wanted to also help kind of shape programs for people, and I wanted to shape treatment planning and things like that, which are things I'm really good at and things that I enjoy. And it's just another level of client care that I'm accustomed to. I applied for and interviewed for that position for a case management supervisor. No, just a case manager, twice in the course of a year, and got turned down both times. Both times I was told that I needed a little bit more experience under my belt. And then the last time around, my boss told me that I was too good as a caregiver and they didn't want to lose me. So I left. Alex and I got married in 2011. And we got married in June of 2011. So we had all of this stuff just going on. On a personal level, again, just tons and tons and tons of change, and just things being so dramatic in the last decade, really. But anyway, so I applied for jobs with Jamie before we even left to go and get married. We got married in hell, by the way. I'm sure most of you know that story, which is why I'm devil's bride on everything. So we got back from our wedding at the beginning of June. Alex was slated to go out onto the boats for a month to get all of his DNA sampling and all of that stuff for his master's, because he was doing population genetics for black spotted and yellowtail rockfish. And it sucks that I still have all of this stuff plugged into my brain. I had to listen to him go through all of his chemosynthesis stuff, and I can still explain chemosynthesis to you because he went over his presentation 17 times before he had to give it, and he made me sit through the whole thing. So anyway, we got back. He was getting ready to go out of the boat. Didn't wind up happening. And I don't remember exactly why not. I think he had started getting sick, if I remember correctly. But yeah, we did that whole summer of just kind of this back and forth, and I applied for all these different jobs, and I was super unhappy, and um, it was just a really tumultuous time. But then in August, shortly before my birthday, um, I got a call back from Jamie to come in and do my interview with them, and I did. And then I started with them in September of 2011. That job lasted straight through until we left Alaska. And it was a really great learning experience for me. I learned, more case management and treatment planning and severe mental illness and co-occurring substance use disorders and community collaboration and grant funding and and integrated treatment. And I actually became an integrated treatment specialist while I was there. Fun tidbit for people who don't know that about my background. On a completely personal level, when we had left California, so again, on the weight loss journey, as you guys can probably see, it's been pretty dramatic when it comes to at least this last year, but the last 10 years, really. I lost a whole bunch of weight when I moved to California because we were walking everywhere. But when we moved to Alaska, I gained 60 pounds in 3 months, 4 months, something like that. I was drinking 6 or 7 of those super tall coffees every day. And tons of creamer, tons of like, it's dark all the time. I was eating snacks like crazy. So yeah, it was also, a whole bunch of stuff going on. But so yeah, the beginning of the decade was really, really tumultuous. 2012, there wasn't a whole lot going on in 2012 on a super professional level, but my dad, it was still sick. He'd gotten better, but he was, in and out. Cancer being what it is. 13, we started talking about leaving Alaska because there just wasn't enough access to medical care and everything. Alex had a heart attack at the end of 2013. It's actually December of 13. I had been in and out of the hospital. I had gotten put into the hospital for sepsis twice. And I had gone to the emergency room 7 times in a 6-month time period. We were just super sick. Alex had the heart attack in December of 13, minor. I hate to say that there's levels, but when it comes to heart attacks, there actually are levels. So he had a very minor heart attack, which we were able to, but we knew then that his heart was just struggling. So we started making plans to leave. And it took until we were down here for July of 2014. We came down for me to do my job interview with ResCare. And while we were here, I got the job. So it was the July 4th weekend, like that week after. And I like literally had it up on my computer. I had all the stuff ready to go because I knew we weren't going to have a whole lot of time. So we pre-planned like getting on the ferry and doing the drive down and how we were going to get all of our stuff down, freight, whole nine. And, during this time, of course, Alex was getting sicker and I was getting sicker, and I, again, had ballooned, by the way. I mean, 2013 was when my dad had passed away. We'd lost our son that year, a couple months after that. And then Alex, of course, had the heart attack and everything. 13 was a pretty tumultuous year, but 14 was pretty bad. So we finally left, though. Alex actually started getting better as soon as we left. We found out later that there was black mold in our apartment, which is why both of us were getting sick. We had toxic black mold exposure. Anyway, so we got down here, and here being Seattle, we lived in Shoreline for 2 years when we first got here, which was great. I mean, our first week here, Alex was like, he was moving around a whole bunch, and he was finally acting like he was better. And I got it wasn't an awesome job, but it was a job. It was a good job. I mean, it was my first foray into supervisory, like legit supervisory. I had a caseload of 120 clients and I was managing 60 staff. So it was intense, and it was a 24-hour a day job too. So it was like, it was just intense. As things kind of progressed, though, like our next door neighbors, I did a stint in domestic violence and sexual assault really early in my career. We were doing a neighborhood watch thing when we first moved to Shoreline. We became part of like the neighborhood block party, which was really weird for me because I'm like slightly introverted. Tad. But one of the leaders had come up and asked me if I knew anything about, like, she found out I was in social services, and then she wanted to know what my background was in, and we started talking about that. And she's like, we have a really bad domestic violence problem here. Would you mind helping us with the newsletter talking about resources? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I wound up getting in on that. On top of everything else I was doing at the time. So I was helping with Neighborhood Watch and assisting with getting people to shelters and finding different resources available in King County, but then also in Snohomish County and Pierce, and kind of branched out there while doing my job and managing the fact that Alex was still doing his master's. And I was out of the house all the time, and Alex wasn't doing classes anymore, but he was still working on his thesis. And then I'm not going to go into grave detail from 15 to the end of 16. You guys know that stuff. Like, literally the most tumultuous point of my life. I don't associate 2015 and 2016 with anything particularly positive, other than my mom graduated from college. I got a really awesome job with UHC, being able to work from home, and I helped create the program for the Navigator program for the entirety of Washington State, and then on a national level, doing policies and procedures, and being able to do grant funding again, and being able to do it's program creation, which I and advocacy, which is big for me too, things that I genuinely enjoy. And because I had all these kind of connections in the community from stuff I was doing personally and professionally, it worked out quite well. And then on the top of that, I love working with clients. I mean, it is the highlight of my career, is being able to actually help people, which is something I'm planning, by the way, I'm moving closer to in 2020, if at all humanly possible. But anyway, there were some positives for that particular time, and it taught me a lot. I grew up a lot. I turned 30 in 2015, and for me personally, there were a lot of moments that taught me what it was like to be a positive significant other. Honestly, I mean, I feel like I've always been really good at being supportive and being a light in the darkness. That's just generally how I've always been told that I'm seen, and what Alex told me too. I mean, Alex's thing was that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. But anyway, there was just a lot of learning where my boundaries were and how far I could push myself before I broke. And I feel like those were really good lessons for me too, going into what I had to put up with the last 3 years. I mean, Alex and I started dating in the beginning of 2009. And then when he passed away in 2016, it had been 7 years of just roller coaster. And I think the big lesson I had between 16 and now has been learning how to not spread myself so thin, how to purposefully create boundaries, how to know when I'm being pushed too far, and when I'm pushing myself too far. I had a lot of telling people to, if you'll pardon my French, fuck off in the last 3 years. I have no time for bullshit. I just don't. And I think that's a big change from the beginning of the decade to now too. 25-year-old me had no chill. I mean, 23, 24, 25-year-old me had no chill. I had not had those life lessons yet. I mean, I'd had a lot of trauma growing up or whatever, but adult trauma is a little bit different than childhood trauma in that you're forced to learn how to deal with it yourself. So as an adult, kind of being the queen of my own castle and having all these things that I had to learn how to do, and being really young, and I hate saying that, but it's true. At 30, I was dealing with things that most people my age will never get an opportunity to experience, or if they do, it'll happen really, really late in life. And those are things that I took with me a lot. Like, I'm way more verbal about how I feel about people in my life now. I'm way more verbal about what I want to have happen in my life. I feel like I'm at a point now where it's either lose it or use it, or use it or lose it, really. I had all these big dreams and aspirations and things that I wanted out of my life that didn't come into fruition, and that's okay. I think I learned even more how to roll with the punches and how things change and how they have to change. And being okay with that, like being okay with being friggin' human. Like I have a lot of capacity for the things that I do, and I think most of the people that know me know that. That being said, though, I'm not a superhero. And I don't think I've always kind of had that expectation on myself that I was going to be good at everything. I was just going to be amazing at everything I tried to do. And as soon as I tried to do it, I might add, I was going to be good at everything. Nobody was going to be able to tell me that I was bad at anything ever again. And it turns out, it's just not in the cards for me. I had to learn how to build up to being good at something, which has been a big change, a big life lesson for me too. I'm as far as what's coming next, I don't know. I feel like now's kind of my time, if that makes sense. Like I'm gonna be 35 in August, and there are things in my life that I haven't run out of time yet for that I want to make sure happen one way or the other. I'm back in school. So I start my first round of classes on the 13th of January, so not too long from now, getting my bachelor's in psychology, which is something I've always been really, really super interested in, and am really good at, for that matter, but especially abnormal psych and forensic psych. So yeah, I mean, I'm at the point where I want things out of my life again. And I think that's been a big change in probably the last year, at the very least. Between getting my promotion in 2017 and getting, so I did that, and then losing my job in 2018, and then moving back out here in 18, and then getting another job, and then another job. And then, I've been almost a year in my current job now, which blows my mind. But and it's still back doing the things that I'm good at. I'm a supervisor. I'm successful. Some days I struggle, and I have people I can reach out to that I trust, who I know I'm safe with, which is also a big change for me. And yeah, I'm just kind of wading through and dealing with my own bullshit now. And I think, again, that's a big change between my maturity level 10 years ago and now. So I'm looking forward to what this next decade of my life is going to bring. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that 35 to 45 won't be so. But if my life has taught me nothing, it's that the roller coaster will come. And I just have to be prepared for it. And even if I can't be prepared for it, I just have to understand that it is coming and that good things are going to happen with it. And I'm making a conscious effort to focus on the positives in my life and the people who I love and the people who I trust and the people that, the situations that have made and built me. And I don't know, maybe that's an aspect of my maturity now as well. Like, I significantly hope that the people in my life who I'm around constantly and who who I've built relationships with and that have been through the kind of the thick and thin of the last couple of years, especially when it comes to like the depression and the tumultuosity, if that's a word, of kind of being around me and how that can work sometimes. I take the opportunity as much as I can now to let people know how amazing they are to me. And I think that's going to be a big thing going into the next decade too. So how's it rolling for you guys? Like, we've had so many different things. Like, how are you different from 10 years ago? Like, my hair is shorter. It's like the most thing that I can, like, I have more tattoos now. One more, like a bunch more. I'm planning on getting a new one. And that will be something I'll put up on the channel too. But I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who has been there on this journey with me too. My mom and my sisters are rock stars, and my mom's in the other room, so she can hear me right now. But absolute rock stars. I could not have made it through the last 10 years without them and their support, and especially the last three, the last four or five, really, since the whole thing started. Yeah. And I have friends who hopefully they know who they are. I love you guys dearly, and I hope you know that. And yeah, onward and upward, as so they say. So, welcome to the end of the 2010s, the beginning of the Roaring 20s. Hopefully, politically not as. Hopefully, this next year's not as bad. But thank you so much for being part of this channel, and hopefully, we will see you again coming into the next year. Bye. Ooh, what's going on? End stream.